Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and kind of give you guys little bit of a tutorial, or not really tutorial, because you're not making the same thing I'm making as a hard surface model. At least you shouldn't be. But because this is going to be my design, and for you guys, obviously you're doing your design. But I'll go through and kind of show you what I'm doing and kind of some of the thoughts I have for a hard surface model. So go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and open up a fresh Maya scene, and I want to go ahead and go to File. We're going to go to Project Window, and I'm going to make a new project window. I'm going to call it, I'm going to do another race up, but it's going to be kind of a, I'm going to call it race up V2. I have some new artwork I'm going to be using with it. And I'm going to stick this on my desktop. Okay, so I'm going to have a project folder here that I'm going to be putting my stuff into. And you guys need to also create project folders for all of your stuff. Project folders are extremely useful. So if I open up on my desktop, I have Race Up here. And project folders allow us to have a place to save our files. So scenes folder is where we'll save our files. We'll have a place for textures if you ever get to texturing this model. They have a place for rendered images. They also have a place for autosaves if you have autosave turned on. So very, very useful for you to have, and honestly make one of these for each of your projects, not one for your class, because really quickly things can get really messy and you can lose files that way. So just make a project folder for each one of your projects, and then you can just stick them all in a bigger folder for your class or whatever that you keep a hold of, and that way it's a little bit better organized. Okay. Okay. So one thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and grab my artwork. So let's see. I need to go under, let's see, class folders. Okay. So I just copied it, and I'm gonna go into source images and drop my image. So this is kind of based off of that drawing that I had shown you in the previous video. Just more details, just kind of went a different way, a little more steampunky. So that's what we're going with for this one. But same spirit, ocean, fish. Maybe this one's a little more sharky, but still kind of in that same family. So you want to make sure you have a front, back, sides, top, bottom views for your creature. So I'm going to go hit spacebar. I'm going to go into my front view. I'm going to go to view, image plane, import image. You'll see it's already looking at my source images folder, and I'm going to go ahead and import that image. And then I'm going to hop over to my side view. I'm going to go over to my other, so import image, import the same image again, and then my top view, import image, import the same image. Okay. Okay. So right here we kind of have all of these images all kind of like just sitting on top of each other. Always make sure you clear out your modeling space. I don't know why I see students that just they love to just leave these all together, and then they're like, I can't see anything, but I'm just gonna struggle bust through it. Man, come on, let's not do that. Clear this out so you can see your space. And then the next thing we need to do is we're gonna model basically at the origin point. So like right here, right here, right here. So we need to line up our images to be able to work with the model and model it accurately. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to take this top view. And so this is the top view, it's missing It's missing the tail, but it's close enough. Actually, I think it's more like a bottom view, but it's good enough. It gives me the silhouette that I'm looking for. This is my front view, so I'm going to go ahead and bring this over. This is my front view right here, and I'm going to set that right on top of that Z, of that dark line right here, the origin point. And then this is my side view. And I always like to model my stuff facing down the Z axis. So I like this view right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of take that and pop that probably right about here. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw in a cube. And the cube is going to do a couple of different things. It's going to allow me to line up my images and make sure that they are in proportion with each other, because sometimes they're not in proportion properly, which happens, especially if you're hand drawing this. You know, unless you're using those guidelines and you're really careful, stuff isn't always in proportion. Maybe your side view is a little taller than your front view, or maybe your front view is a little more skewed, which is fine. It happens. But we want to make sure we can try at least to put our best foot forward in this case. So what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and in each one of these views, I'm going to turn on X-ray view under shading. And I'm going to go and take this box and I'm going to take it into my side view. I like this side view. I'm going to kind of go from the collar, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab, let's go to the first back of that segment right there. And then, so that's telling me like where this kind of lines up. So that means I need to take this drawing right here. I need to move that forward. So that's, the details aren't lining up right there, but that's okay. As long as we're kind of in the same type of space. That's okay. Yeah, I think this is a bottom view. And then that front view, we want to make sure so that what I'm looking for is kind of the width and the height. So I want to take it and go to where I think the bottom and the top of that body is going to be. And you'll see right here, like I'm hitting kind of the bottom area, but I'm not hitting the top. So that's telling me that the drawing is a little bit too big. So I want to scale actually from this point. So I'm going to go and hit D, move my pivot point, and I'm just going to scale it down to where I get it, where I want it to be. So somewhere right about there, and that'll work for me. Okay. And I think we're generally there. Okay, so I think that works. All right, so let's go ahead and save the file and make sure it's under scenes, and we're going to call it, I'm going to call it Shark Sub. Shark Sub 1. All right, so what I'm looking at is going to be where I'm going to make different pieces, different segmentations. So I think the tail, see how we kind of got this spinal vertebrae type shape going back here? That's going to be individual pieces. I indicated in when I'll show you guys the first model, I really like having the wings to be articulated. So I'm going to be having, you know, articulation points in these wings. And maybe even the dorsal fin might be a separate piece as well. These caps where the bubble windows are going to be are going to be moved, or are going to be separate pieces, so I can have like, you know, individual pieces for like glass. So that'll be individual pieces as well. And then I'm going to be putting in hard surface details like these cowls around the windows, the hatch, you know, there's a rotor back here, the shark tail or the marlin tail, the fish tail, things like that. So it's going to be pieces in there that I am going to be working with. So yeah. All right, so one thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and I'm going to go and turn on symmetry. So I'm going to go up here to right here. So probably for you is going to say symmetry off. I'm going to turn on object X. And that means that anytime I grab a piece on the left, it's going to move a piece on the right, or a piece on the right, it's going to move it on the left. And so we're going to be good there. All right. So what I want to do is go ahead and start kind of creating the silhouette of the body of this this ship. And one big thing is I'm going to be flipping between front view, side view, top view, three-quarter view constantly. So do not get stuck and sit in one view while you're modeling. You need to make sure that you're flipping between all different sides because we are building up three-dimensional objects. And one of my core tenets of modeling is when I'm adding edge loops, I am very conservative on me adding in edge loops. I am doing this because I am trying to create the shape of this object. So I don't want to add too many edge loops. If I can create that same shape using less edge loops and less vertexes, then I'm happy with doing that. Now, why? If we start throwing in a bunch of edge loops on these objects, we run the risk of faceting or overcomplicating the model. We don't want to do that. With our topology, generally we want to try to have a generally equally spaced out density of topology. So we're just trying to do that for the entire model. And you'll see as I'm going that we try not to do too much. Too quick, I should say. All right, let's throw in so multi-cut right there. So I've added in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 edge loops. All right, so what I'm going to do is going to take this one, move that up here, take these two, move those back here. And you notice that like I did a selection box, and that selects all the ones going all the way down the line. And so what's happening is I'm building an arc right here. I'm building a slight curve. So I can build in an organic shape pretty quickly. And that's exactly what I want to do. Okay. And then you'll see like right here, it kind of shrinks in. So I'm going to go and take that, kind of shrink that in a little bit. And then this will shrink in a little bit too, kind of bring this back. And then right here, I'm going to kind of bulge this out. It's kind of got a bit of a ovaloid body right there. Okay. And I think one thing I need to kind of start knocking in early on is going to be the shape of the wings. And so I think I'm going to have them come in kind of from this angle. It seems like that's probably the best place to start. Although I'm going to go and take these guys, move them up a little bit. So I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a bulge and arc kind of through there. Something kind of like that. And then I'll take these 4 faces. I'm going to hit Control E. I'm going to shrink it in a little bit. And I'm going to kind of move it out. And these wings are a little bit shorter than what I really want them to be. Again, I really do like that kind of ray, that majestic ray shape. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a longer shape to them, but I'm going to use this silhouette. Let's take that, bring that over here. And I'm kind of also thinking like how this thing would move. I imagine like it's probably using the wings to steer the tail, probably also steers and then adds propulsion. It's very much like a 40,000 Leagues Under the Sea type deal. If you guys are familiar with, what is it, Nemo and the Nautilus? Captain Nemo? It's been a while since I've read that book. It's, I think it's, I want to say Jules Verne? Yep. No, 40,000 Leagues Under the Sea, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Yeah, there we go. It's a book from 1870. They have a really good movie, I want to say, from the 1960s, 1970s. They have a really cool, some really good really good visual effects from that period. So I'm kind of just blocking out the shape of the wing right now. And like I said, I'm going to go for a more majestic, larger shape to the wing. But I am kind of following this silhouette. I'm going to stretch it out once I'm kind of done, give me something that looks a little bit more, I don't know, maybe more like manta ray-ish. Like a manta ray mixed with a shark. Let's just go ahead and go kind of towards the end. Kind of have it maybe like arc out a little bit more. So it's getting a lot bigger than what the initial thing was, but you kind of see where I'm going with this. It's getting a little airplane-y. All right, right here I got a N-gon. This happens sometimes when we use the symmetry tool. Be careful. Watch your topology as you're going, because it can get on you real quick like that. So make sure you're watching your topology. Okay. I think that'll be my wingspan. So I'm kind of creating the tip of that wing, and then I'll probably do a little extrusion to help kind of cap it off. Then I'll need to have an extrusion that kind of goes across right there. Gives me a little profile on the edge, like almost like a airplane profile. Okay, something like that. And then what I want to do is I'm going to do a multi-cut. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. Okay. And so remember I got this kind of sweep, this kind of going on here, but I don't have that right here. So the way I'm going to get that is I'm going to select these tips, the wing tips. I'm going to hit B as in boy. That's going to turn on my soft select. I'm going to grow that using B middle mouse drag. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my rotate tool and then my translate tool, and you'll see it kind of allows me to sweep that wing back a little bit. I mean, like if I wanted to go like short, I could do that, but here this allows me a little bit of like elasticity to the wing. So I'm getting a little more of that hook back there, and I think that looks a little bit prettier, a little bit more majestic, which is kind of what I'm going for. And then I can kind of pull some of this back if I want to. Yeah, that looks cool. It's got a really nice kind of like soft lift to that wing right there. So that's going to be our starting point for the wing. And that's pretty cool. This kind of reminds me of like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a book called Dinotopia. It's one of my wife and I's favorites book as children. It's about dinosaurs, actually. If dinosaurs and people coexisted on a island, and ironically enough, it's actually set during the late 1800s, so same time period as 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's not written; it was written in, I think, the 80s, but it's very much like a Journey to the Center of the Earth type novel. Well, it's not a novel. There are novels, but it's basically a story of a father and a son that get washed up on an island, um, and there are dinosaurs and humans that coexist, and the dinosaurs are all sentient, which is pretty cool. All right, I'm going to delete that. That. So we got a little shell there. I'm going to create like a socket in a couple minutes. All right, so I need kind of something to give me a little bit of a more majestic edge to that wing. You see that right there? That was what I just did. I saw there was a flat space right here. I'm making these vertexes work for me, so I'm putting that curve in there. I'm just making sure they're moving for me the way I want. I joke around. I think sometimes I'll say if a vertex isn't working, it doesn't need to be here if it's not earning its keep. We can fire it. So it has to be doing something for us. If it's not doing anything for us, then what is it doing here? All right, so right here, I want to do Control E. So again, that is going to be extrude. And what I want to do is shrink the extrusion. And what that is going to do, that's going to give me a self-contained face loop. Okay. And it's a little nasty getting here on the tip. I want that same topology, but I'm going to get it a different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw edge loop here, edge loop here. And I don't want this edge going out to here. I need it to be self-contained. So, because I'm using these edges to kind of like curve out the tips, the leading edge and the trailing edge of the wing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and take this edge, these two, hit Control, Delete. I'm going to take this face, I'll shrink it down, see that? And then we'll take make sure if you hit delete, make sure you delete the extra vertexes. I might go to target weld that, target weld that. So that's the same topology pattern as before. The reason why I did it this way is as I was shrinking in that extrusion, it was really crunching in that side of the wingtip. But this way, it's not. So I don't have to go back and rebuild that. But I mean, you can also just do the extrusion and not worry about that, I guess, and just kind of rebuild it yourself. But, you know, it's whatever. That's the fun thing with 3D modeling is there's a million different ways to do the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Delete, delete those. And since, again, I have you guys delete that. Okay. Since there's a million different ways to do things, you can find your own workflow. But, you know, this one, demonstrating this, like there's different ways of doing things, so you can figure out what you like best. But give this a shot, see if you like it. Okay, so anyway, so we got that. So why do we have that? So I can pull this out a little bit and create a little bit of a rounded edge on that wing. And it's subtle, but what's going to happen is if you smooth the model, it's going to reinforce this roundness that we're getting right here, rather than collapsing that back edge. And that's what we want. We want to have control over our models. We don't want to say incidentally, oh, I hit 3, the smooth is exactly what I want. Yeah, but you also want to have enough modeling capability that you can actually tell the model what you want without hoping for the best from a smoothing perspective, or from, just hitting 3 and smoothing it. So pull that out. And I'm just being gentle. I'm not doing any like large movements here. I'm just kind of pulling these out bit by bit. And one of the fun things I like about doing this is, honestly, for me, this is pretty relaxing. Like, this is what I do for fun. I know maybe that sounds weird, but people paint and draw and sculpt in their spare time. I like to model. I like to make things. And I was joking with a friend of mine who's an animator. She was talking about how she'll do like stress animation sometimes to like relieve stress, and I'm like, well, does that also work with stress modeling? Because I feel like that encapsulates what I do sometimes. Stress modeling and stress animating. Okay, cool. Those look good. All right. So I think I want to pull this up a little bit right here, give ourselves a little more volume on the wing. And then I'll pull that up a little bit. Oop, careful. So that way we're getting a little bit more volume in there. Maybe there's like, servos, or maybe there's, something kind of happening in there. I'll do the same thing on the bottom, just not as much. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S and save, because we do not want to lose our work. All right, so I got a dorsal fin right here that I want to do. So I'm going to go and take, let's do, basically goes from here to here. So I'm going to grab this one, and this one. I'm going to hit Control E again. I'm going to shrink this in. And I'm actually going to kind of make it a little bit skinnier. Kind of bring it out a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and go Control E, bring that out again, and we'll go over to the side view. And I'm just going to kind of flatten it using my scale tool. If you haven't figured this out, it's a really good use of the scale tool to like flatten and square up your models. Been super useful for me once I figured that thing out like years ago. I'm going to go ahead and kind of pull that out. And then rotate this. See how this thing kind of like rotates over? I want to make sure my topology follows that rotation. See, that scale is still rotating. Let's see. Object. reset that tool. Okay. Okay. I was trying to get this thing to scale properly. It's wanting to stay with world positions, but something weird with the tool. I was just kind of resetting it, see if I could get it to reset itself. I wonder if it's pinned somewhere for the pivot. Oh well, it's not going to change anything. I can still work with this. All right, so we'll take that, go back over, rotate. Yeah, change that. Okay, go up like that. Okay, never mind, I got it. So I changed my axis orientation to component. For some reason I was thinking world was what I needed, but I needed basically pointing in the right direction for the faces that I have selected, but that helps out for now. Okay, so let's take a look at this in 3D space. So you see it's really blocky. We don't want blocky. We don't like blocky. So we're gonna take this away. Thing with animals is they are not blocky. Believe it or not. Despite what some projects have really wanted to do, they really love their blocky animals, but we're not doing blocky animals. Blocky is basic. We're not in Minecraft. All right, I'm going to pull this back so we have a nice kind of teardroppy shape. And then we're tapering this as we get further and further to the tip of the dorsal spine, or dorsal fin. Ventral fin? I think it's dorsal, yeah. Okay, so we got that. Kind of that. I'm going to just take that and kind of, let's go back to object, rotate that a little bit. Okay, so we got that general swoop there. You can see it's kind of, we're getting a little big. So let's go ahead and turn on soft select just a hair. Move that back. Move that back. And then move that back. Move that back. I'm just kind of aligning this to the and there's like this plate, I think, that the dorsal fin is kind of sitting on. And it kind of cuts through the hatch right here. So I want to move the hatch a little bit more forward. But that'll give us, turn off soft select for a second. And I'm going to take this. I'm going to round this out. Nope, not what I wanted. So go back here. So we'll see where we kind of got this going on. And then I want to smooth out this arc. So I'm going to go and take a bevel. I'm going to give it, let's see, let's do another fraction right there. Let's do one right there. And that's, so we're getting there. So we'll go and pull that up. these down a little bit. I'm just trying to even out that topology. So like this is all kind of generally the same, same spacing. It's getting kind of a, definitely getting a dorsal fin shape feel to it. And then I think I need another edge loop right there. I'm going to take this edge loop, and then I want to move it just a little bit like that. I'm just going to shrink it just a hair and rotate it just a hair like that. Okay, so then that brings me to this cap. It's really flat, but I need it to be pointy, like that. So I'm going to go and shrink that in. I'm going to bring that out. Shrink it in again. Let's go back to the side view. And I'm just going to kind of get a little bit of a soft slick there. I'll rotate that. So we're really kind of like hitting that silhouette then, right there. And then I'm going to go and shrink this one, kind of bring that out just a little bit. So we're kind of minimizing, or not minimizing, we're kind of, you know, shrinking the number of faces that are going into that tip. And we'll go right here. Make sure you get right up in there. Look at that. I'm just kind of looking at this from like different angles, seeing kind of what I'm running into spots where like I'm getting some hard edges, things aren't looking right, stuff like that. I'm also looking to see if like I'm stretching out faces in any way that like don't make sense to me. So at 3, that should smooth pretty well. And then I can take these two and kind of pull them back just a hair. Okay, like that. I think that'll work. Okay, so again, we're trying to kind of self-contain. We need to add a couple extra faces, but with that extrusion, but we didn't want to run edge loops along the entire system, because we don't need to overcomplicate this this model. So see how much distance we're getting with a relatively few number of vertexes. So this is important if you want to go into things like video games. They're notoriously conservative on topology, because video games need to be able to run on a lot of different platforms. So I think it's much more forgiving nowadays than it was like 10, 15 years ago, or, you know, hell, in the 1990s, when we first were starting to get into like 3D platforms like the N64 and the original PlayStation. You didn't have enough graphic memory to actually support models with a lot of faces. So that's why you had things like Link from Legend of Zelda that had just, he had a flat face entirely. Ganondorf had a flat face with a nose, and it was just textures. um, you know, the original Laura Croft, she was very, you know, they make a joke about it, but the box boobs, things like that. Very, very conservative on your topology requirements there. So, same idea now, but probably a little bit less so. Um, Computers nowadays can run a whole lot more. I mean, our cell phones have more power than laptops did, you know, general laptops did even 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Um, so, anyway, if you want to work in games, you need to be able to model low resolution and be as conservative as you can with that approach. Okay. So we really want to make sure we're able to do that. Okay. So this is the body. I'm happy with that. I'm going to cut in some edge looping for the plates a little bit later. I want to get the rest of the stuff kind of going. So let's focus on this area, the headpiece. So what I want to do is I need, let's see. So I need like a collar, and then I'll have like a neck, and then a bubble window. So in order to kind of do that, I need a collar that's going to fit this. And honestly, the easiest way for me to do that is I'm going to grab that edge loop, I'm going to extrude. Where'd it go? Sometimes this symmetry thing gets really buggy on me. There it is. All right, let me back up because this symmetry is kind of irritating me a bit. Okay. So I need to grab all of that, grab that, hit Control E, turn that off, and I'm just going to extrude. That's what I'm looking for. I think I still got something going on. Yeah, hang on, let me back out. Yeah, there it is, right there. Yeah, it was hidden there. Be careful when you're doing extrusions. Sometimes it acts like you don't have an extrusion, but you do. Okay. I'm going to take this face loop that I just extruded out. I want it to be separated from the body, at least for now. So, because maybe I want this head to articulate, maybe. But honestly, me separating this out allows me to maybe spend a little more time on detailing this piece, and I can get a little bit more out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to Mesh Separate. Nope, I need to do Extract, I'm sorry. I'm going to go to Face Extract. There we go. So now it is its own piece. Okay, so I got that, and this is something that I can work on and kind of build this collar section. Okay, so here I want to go ahead and kind of build out this little bulbousy piece right there. So I'm going to hit extrude. I'm going to shrink that in. I'm going to extrude that out. I'm going to hit extrude again. And I want to kind of round this out a little bit. Kind of looks a little bit like a dog collar, I guess. Something like that. And then I'm going to go and take this edge and that edge, and I'm going to go ahead and bevel them. So what's going to happen is when I smooth it, I need a kind of a sharp edge right here. Let's do a multi-cut. I should just put a cut right here. So see as I added in, I'm starting to kind of build that flat face right there, and then I'm going to do another one right there, I'll do another one right there. Okay, so we hit 3 again. Now I got a flat edge. You guys see that? All right, so go back over here on this side. We'll do a flat edge here. Flat edge on the inside. We'll do a flat edge right there. Okay. Now, one thing is it might not be a solid, piece of metal. It may actually have a welded point or something. So one thing I might do is I might make a little detail on here and here. Then I will bevel that, bring that fraction down. I want it to be 0.05. Okay. I'm going to extrude. That's not what I want. I'm going to shrink that down. And then I'm going to hit Control E again. And I'm just going to kind of bring it out. So what's going to happen is it's going to give me a little, almost looks like a weld line right here, which is kind of cool. It's almost like a band got wrapped around there, a band got wrapped around the bottom, and then they got welded right here. So we're adding these kind of manufactured looks. If we hit 3, see how it kind of like butts up against it. Okay, so I want to do a neck piece that comes out a little bit further from the initial collar right here. So what I want to do is I'm going to go and grab that original edge loop. I'm going to extrude it out again. And then I want to go back over to Edit Mesh, Extract. Hit 3, so it should fit inside of there. Move it forward. And then I'm going to go ahead and scale it in a little bit. So you'll see there's an angle kind of coming in right there. And actually, to be honest, I need to move that collar back here. Let's go to, modify center pivot. Hit G, center pivot. So I'm just kind of moving that pivot point back to there, and I'm just gonna move that out. It needs to be bigger. Maybe that's something I can integrate into the wings a little bit better. Bring that out. I feel like that's pretty good right there. But there's a little bit of like a curve, almost like a like an arc. So I'll bring that over. So something kind of like that. So this piece right here will kind of cover some of that. And honestly, maybe that collar, I need to kind of like shrink the leading edge of it a little bit more. And then this section here, I'm going to go and extrude that, and it's going to be a secondary collar. So I'm actually going to move that out a little bit more, just so, again, scaling, like proportion. I'm going to extrude that out. flatten that. I think I might actually take that edge and kind of bring it forward a little bit. And then right here, I'm going to bevel that. We got a segment right there. Multi-cut. Kind of bring that forward a little bit too. Something kind of like that. All right, so we got the bubble right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take a sphere, since that's, you know, the primitive closest to it. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on its side. I'm going to delete half of it because I don't need a full sphere. Flip that in there. And then let's go ahead and fit this as best we can. Let's go ahead and turn back on symmetry. We'll do some soft selecting. Honestly, the more I'm making this, the more it kind of reminds me of like a whale shark or like a basking shark, which is kind of cool. Something like that. And that can be part of the canopy. And if you want to like pull kind of some of that whale shark or basking shark kind of look into it, you know, I think kind of something that might be kind of interesting is like arranging these side windows to kind of fit like the proportion of like, not proportion, the placement of like the eyes on here, which could be kind of maybe put some like little windows here, maybe some little windows there. I don't know, something like that. And then let's see. Also thinking of like iron diving suits. It's kind of making me. I don't know if you guys ever played Bioshock, but Bioshock is great. So 1800s iron atmospheric diving suit. Something like this. So this is kind of cool because it has like these like iron bars that are like kind of around it, but then also like I really love this layered plating. It has a very organic, rounded look to it, but like this armor plating gives some level of motion. It's very much like an armored suit. But then also you have all of these windows. It almost looks like a fly head. So the person inside could look around. So this is all cool. I like this. This is interesting. I like putting together like reference boards and stuff of things that I model. And usually I'll have like a folder of like, I don't know, 20 to 30 images that I'll put together. So something like that would be a neat thing. Reference is always a good thing, especially real reference. Another thing that's kind of cool is some of these iron diving suits are just ridiculous. Like this one had like bars over the windows. They had external little claws that people would manipulate from inside the suit. And just these giant mechanical struts. I mean, he looks literally like Robbie the robot, which I'm sure there's probably a through line on design for that. And then you have kind of a standard diving suit or something like that. So we have like these kind of like soft parts, but then also hard collar piece with like this big heavy helmet, and these big heavy boots. So things like this is really kind of cool. And if you look at like these types of design elements, like this kind of fits like what I'm kind of going for. So I think probably I'm going to add in elements of that into here. So if I want this to be flexible, I think I kind of wanted to make it look flexible. Like the head can like very slightly like turn or angle. It's not going to like do like 90 degrees or anything, but just move a little bit, you know. And I think that would add a level of dynamic quality to this model, which would be kind of cool. So let's do this. I'm going to take this, and this. I'm going to bevel them. And then what I want to do is I want to take this edge loop, and this edge loop right here. So I want to give the sense that this is like a corrugated, like soft material. I'm going to add in another one. Just kind of working my way back in there. If you guys ever watch like Star Wars, which, you know, I'm sure you have. In Empire Strikes Back, the AT-AT walkers have this soft, flexible neck, and it has this kind of corrugation going on in there. Let's see if we can find a good picture of it. There we go. Something like that, and it has this kind of armor strapping, but this is like a flexible metal piece right there. So anyway, got this selected, so I can go and do an extrusion, and then kind of pull that out a little bit. I'm going to bring that out a little bit, and then I'm going to extrude it out again. I'm going to extrude it out a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to shrink it and then extrude it out. You'll see because it kind of is narrowing. Well, it should be narrowing. I may have to do that by hand. But then you'll get this kind of like unique corrugation, kind of rubber gaskety look that's going on right there. And this right here, I would like this to kind of fit a little bit more snugly into the frame. But then you see if I hit 3, it's just kind of marshmallows in. I don't really want that. I want this to feel structured and hard and metallic-y. Maybe not metallic-y, but you know what I'm saying, like something that's got a lot of weight behind it. So I'm putting in reinforcement edges right here. And then what I'll need to do is kind of bring that in. I'm going to go and take, nope, go back to you. Right here. I'm going to go extrude. I'm going to move this back right here. Make sure I do it in my #1 view, because you don't want to ever model in your smooth view. It does not represent what's actually there. Okay. Okay, so you didn't really see really much of what's happening. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and shrink this. And so what's happening is I'm basically making a little shadow, a little collar area, like a little recession. And kind of think of like when we were doing the game controllers, or the, when I was doing my Switch controller, I was making those little button recesses. And so the idea is that like this glass is not the same material as this object. So this has to fit in somewhere, okay? And so that's what that recess is for, okay? A wild cylinder has appeared. I can use this for something. Okay, so I'm gonna take a pause and I will come back and show you guys some more stuff, probably how I'm gonna handle the tail and see what else we got. Okay, but I hope you guys picked up some good stuff. So yeah, until next time.